Hello, everyone. I'm sitting here with Andrew Nicholas Jobling. We're talking about how to get good at writing books and stuff.
Yep.
That's not the
And
official
the stuff.
title.
The stuff's a big part of it too.
And stuff. That's not the official title. That's just what I called it. And we're talking about starting off and getting the wheels turning, and the tendency we have sometimes to compare ourselves to other work or other people or what someone else is doing and we're not doing.
Yeah, I think the mistake. Well, I've certainly made it when you're starting off, whether it's to write your book or to start a business or to have some sort of success. Is we look at the people that are made it, the people that are at the top of their field or are doing great stuff, and we compare ourselves to them where they are now rather than where they were
At our stage.
at the same stage as we're at.
Correct.
And the biggest mistake people make is looking at someone like you, Craig, who's you've created incredible success in, as an author, as a speaker, in the health and well-being industry, and what you've done, and go, oh, I could never be like Craig Harper because he's so confident and he's achieved so much, but he's never
super old. He's 100.
Yeah, but we won't go there. We're about the same age, mate. So, but they don't ever go, well, I wonder how Craig started and where he was, and I mean, and you'll explain your story, but I mean, I'm sure there was times where you lacked confidence, you didn't know what you were doing, you were clueless.
I
like we all
think
were.
that thing, one of the undeniable norms of the human condition is that all of us forever feel inadequate on some level about something and feel like a fraud. And I often, like, one of the things I do is coach speakers, and I always talk to them about, depending on the situation, like I've done gigs where I'm speaking at a conference full of surgeons. I literally did the Royal Australian College of Surgeons. So I'm the dumbest person in the room. I'm the dumbest. I'm the least qualified, and I'm being paid to enlighten 300 people that are all smarter than me. And I could not have felt more inadequate or less qualified, right? And that's emotion, right? So we need to differentiate between what we feel and what we know. But what I knew was I'm pretty good at what I do.
Yep.
And in terms of self-management and lifestyle and looking after ourselves, whether or not we're a mechanic or an author or a lollipop lady or man or a surgeon, we're human beings that have still got to make decisions. We've still got to get out of bed, feed ourselves, look after ourselves, do good stuff, hopefully impact others, have relationships, communicate. And it's trying to figure out, well, what can I do, and be clear about what I know that I'm good at and what my potential is versus that fear-driven emotion of I'm shit, I'll never be good at this, Andrew's amazing, Craig's amazing, or whatever the story is. And because, the truth is that everybody who is a published, recognised author wasn't.
Exactly.
They weren't.
No.
They weren't. And I guarantee you nobody wrote their first book and went, this will be amazing, I'm amazing, with zero self-doubt. Everybody, unless you're a sociopath, everybody has self-doubt. And I remember writing my first book, which was called Fatitude, in the early 2000s. And the overwhelming feedback was you won't get that published because you're not a published author. And I'm going... What? What? Huh? And I'm thinking, well, unless there's something I don't know, every author started with book 1. I don't think
published.
J.K. Rowling started with number 5, So, and there's just stories that we tell ourselves. And even me now at 52, I still do stuff where I feel like a fraud at times because I feel not good enough or I feel compared to. But I recognise that for what that is. I recognise that for insecurity. I recognise that for self-doubt.
Yeah.
And so if the 52-year-old that's written a bunch of books and opened gyms and worked in telly and works in radio can still be influenced or affected by self-doubt, then anyone can. It's normal.
It is incredibly normal. And I think one of the best things we can always do, I mean, you talked about being, talking to 300 surgeons, and you look at those surgeons and you can be incredibly intimidated by those surgeons. But can you imagine all 300 of those surgeons on the very, very first day of medical school? Like, they would have been pooing their pants. I reckon they would have been
100%.
clueless, and they would have been looking at their professors and their lecturers and other people, other surgeons, and going, "Oh, I could never be like that." And you know, and I think we've all just got to just stop and go, "Okay, well, I mean, Craig, when did you start in the industry? When did you start the journey to get you to where you are today? How long ago?"
Yeah, when I was 18, so 34 years.
So 34 years, and similar for me. You know, like it doesn't happen. You don't just become an expert. We all start clueless. We're all clueless.
Yeah.
So,
wow.
Someone's mowing their lawn. That's okay.
We can work over that.
We can do that. So we all start bad.
Yeah.
Like we don't know what we don't know until we know it.
Yeah, that's right.
And I think, what do they say? You go from, is it unconscious incompetence to conscious incompetence to conscious competence to unconscious competence. In other words...
So that 5 times fast, kids. And then when you understand it, send me an email.
We don't know what we don't know.
Yeah.
And then you go to uni and you go, okay, well, now I know what I don't know.
Yeah.
And then you know what you know.
Yeah.
And then if you do it long enough, like you do, Craig, you don't think about... You could get up in front of 1,000 people and just go bang because it's unconscious for you. It's there, but it started...
Yeah.
I've got no clues. And I think if we just can recognise that this is a process and we all start at the same place, whether it's day one, page one, word one of your book.
Yeah.
You know, we've all been there.
Yeah.
You know, I remember as a footballer, clueless, non-reader, non-academic. Okay, I'm going to write a book.
Yeah.
How the hell do I do that?
Yeah.
Like, just put words on a page. And I know I'll learn and I'll get better, and over time I won't be this clueless. I'll still be clueless in a lot of, like you said, in a lot of areas. But
and I think, as we've said before, everyone starts with their own. You know, for me, I had no idea, so I literally just went. My process to start was, I'm just going to put a bunch of things in point form that I want to talk about. So I go, attitude, mindset, fear, carbohydrates, lifting weights, or whatever it was, you know, attitude, beliefs, relationships, communication. And then I'd go, right, well, let's start with communication. Let's talk about, verbal and non-verbal communication. Let's talk about perception around that. And then I've got 3-4 pages on communication. Then I go, all right, well, now I might talk about fear. And then I go, well, what are some of the symptoms of fear? Overthinking, avoidance, procrastination, self-doubt, self-loathing, fear of commitment. So then I'll unpack those, and you go, and then you have all these pieces, and you go, I think I'll put that bit there and that bit there.
I know.
I overlapped there. I'll get rid. And then you're building this thing
exactly
rather than sitting down going, where do I start?
Yeah. Well, and for me, similar, I was like, how do I start?
Yeah.
How do I write? And then I thought, well, if I was sitting with someone, right, and I had someone here, and I was going to try and teach them what I wanted to put in the book, what would I say to them? And I started thinking, well, this is what I'd say to them. Okay, well, if I can say the words and that person can understand me, then I can write it.
100%. And I think that's, so that I write, which I don't suggest everyone does, but my writing style is conversational.
Yep.
So I kind of write like I talk. Yeah. It's a little different, but it's pretty much the same. And with the common feedback I get from people
exactly. I've read a lot of your stuff
who know me go, when I read your stuff, it's like you're talking to me.
Exactly.
And that works for me. And I'm a little bit sweary. But that also works because I'm a bit blunt and I'm like you. I'm a pracademic, not an academic. But it's just figuring out, I always say to people, well, what do you want to talk about? And let's say they want to talk about, redesigning a home or whatever they want to write about. You go, well, just tell me about that. And they go, oh, well, what I do is, and the way, and I go, good, put that in a book.
Exactly. Passion. They talk about it passionately, but then they come to write it and they go, well, I've got to write like J.K. Rowling. No, you don't. You write like you. You just like you, just like you talk. It's your personality that will come through in the book. And it's that uniqueness that I say. It's that naivety, uniqueness that is what's going to make your book different to every other book out there. Is you. Don't try and write like anyone else. Don't try and write like the experts or act like be yourself. And that's what sets you apart.
So learn from others, but don't evaluate yourself by what they're doing.
and just recognise that we all started at this very same place. We all started as a baby. We couldn't walk or talk, and we all had to learn it. And everything that everyone has created in their life, they started with no clues of what to do, and they've just learned and stuck at it. And that's really all it's all about.
And at some stage, we were all crap.
Exactly. Clueless.
The
Totally
end.
clueless. Yep.